Now, the Premier League is not yet decided. Some of the key issues look probable. One is that with a point ahead with a game in hand, Manchester City are warm favourites to win the Premier League, and the top four in the Premier League looks like it will be Arsenal, Man City and Manchester United and Newcastle. But at the bottom, there's a fierce fight to avoid relegation, and in that fight is one of England's great clubs, Leeds United, and we're joined by one of Leeds United's greatest ever players, John Giles, to discuss the weekend's football and indeed the fate of Leeds United. We'll start with Leeds, John.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the fixtures they have and they're rough. The last four, Bournemouth away, which they played, Manchester City away on the 6th of May, Newcastle home, West Ham away on the 21st of May, and Spurs at home, last game of the season. They are, at the moment, fourth from bottom and very, very close to the dead men. Leicester, Everton, Southampton, we can take it, will be relegated. Now, John, you've been watching them all season, and at times you thought they'd get away with it, but I think your mood has changed a bit, and particularly in the light of those four final games, it looks a tall order.
Well, it certainly does, Eamon. A few weeks ago, I think I said to you, I think they'll get out of it with the clubs around them. But since then, they've hit a terrible time, Eamon, really bad. I mean, the weekend, it was Bournemouth.
Yeah.
You know, Bournemouth have done exceptionally well. They've beaten Leeds 4-1.
Yeah.
And then a couple of weeks ago there, they lost two matches at home, Liverpool and somebody else. And they lost 11 goals, Eamon, and scored 2 at home.
At home, yeah.
You know, there's no team doing that at the moment. It's really, really bad.
Yeah.
And Bournemouth beating them 4-1. And now the manager they brought in has gone. So they're in dire straits, Eamon. No doubt about it.
This morning's news that Sam Allardyce may get the job of saving them. Allardyce has a history of saving clubs from relegation, but he's been out in the wilderness for a few years now, and I know from talking to you many times that you will be horrified at the idea that Big Sam is the answer.
Well, I think it's got ridiculous, and shows their desperation.
Yeah.
To put them. I mean, Sam hasn't been in management for quite a while, and I think he looked like he was finished totally. And to get him back into the situation that Leeds are in at the moment, which they've got themselves into, there's no doubt. Going back to Bielsa, they sacked him.
Yeah.
They didn't give him any real help when he was there, and since then, it's down, Eamon.
Yeah.
It's just desperation at the moment.
Yeah, Sam's last job was at West Brom, who he didn't save. Now, John, let's look elsewhere at the relegation battle. Leicester, Everton, they drew last night. Southampton are dead. I think you could say that. But even they've had some amazing results, but they're dead. It looks like it. Notts Forest, felt all along Notts Forest would go. Leicester and Everton, very big club. Fans have been angry. They've had everyone in there to try and save it. But even Sean Dyche, whose record at Burnley was amazing over 10 years, even he appears to be struggling. And last night in the game against Leicester, Seamus Coleman got a very bad injury. It's said he had to be stretched off the field, which is very bad for Everton, but it's also very bad for Ireland with the Euro qualifying matches to come. So there's no team that can't go down. I mean, Leicester, for example, with Brendan Rodgers, I don't think they would have been many people's choice at the start of the season to go down, would they?
No, certainly not. There's been a lot of, that's the game as we know. Leicester certainly wouldn't have been in that position. They got rid of Rodgers, who had been doing a great job for years for them, Eamon.
Yeah.
Everton have got themselves into this position over the years, Eamon.
Yes.
I mean, they had Ancelotti there.
Yes, they did.
For a while. And other top managers. But I don't think they gave any of them the say in the transfers, and they bought some dreadful players over the years and got themselves into a position now. And Dyche has a big job to do. I mean, they had a go for him yesterday. I watched the match. Leicester, it was a good game, Eamon.
Yeah.
Maddison missed a penalty. Leicester could have gone 3-1 ahead. But Everton fought back. At least there's a bit of fight with Everton there. And Dean Smith, so far, Leicester's done a good job. So it's touch and go with those two, along with a few others, as you know, Eamon, there.
Yeah. Now, the difference between being in the Premier League and not is about 150 million initially. I think you get a parachute payment when you go down, but then you can be down for a long time. And Leeds weren't they, before Bielsa arrived?
We're in the third division, Eamon, at one stage.
Yeah.
So it was a total collapse. And then Bielsa got them up and kept them up, did a really good job. And looking back now, I think if they'd backed him, they'd still be there. They made changes, and none of them have worked for them. They were looking for miracles, Eamon.
Yeah.
And as you know, there's no miracles in football. You got to get on with the job. And they're really, really in dire straits now.
Now, let's look at the other end of the table, John. Arsenal play Chelsea tonight, and they are a point behind City, and City have a game in hand, but they can briefly go top. But I think we both agree that City are finishing very strongly. And, well, I'd like to ask you about that, because we both felt, I think, about a couple of months ago that they were wobbly, City. They weren't impressive, and although they were still getting the results. But now they're impressive and getting results. This lad, Haaland, John, he excites me. I think he's one of the greatest players I've ever seen. He's 22 years of age, and he's scored over 50 goals, and he's not finished yet by a long chalk. How much of a difference what's your own opinion of him, John?
The same as yours, Eamon. I think it's a general impression from the time he came into the club. He scored goals. Once he scored 50 goals or something already, Eamon.
Yeah.
It's unheard of in the modern day. I mean, I think Dixie Dean, whatever it was, 60, 70, 80 years ago at Everton was scoring like that. But, and we've had great goal scorers since, Jimmy Greaves and that. But there's nobody doing it like this lad at the moment. I mean, he's a big lad, as we know. He's so quick on the ground. He's a good pair of feet. He's got everything as a goal scorer. And he seems to be a good team player as well.
Yes.
He gets on with the lads. He's not big-headed in any way. Gets the job done.
And makes goals. I mean, he creates chances as well as taking them.
He did. The match before last, he created two for De Bruyne.
Yeah.
Good through balls, good control around the goals. No, he's very, very well. He's brilliant, Damon. There's no doubt about that. And City have a habit at this stage of the season of really getting ahead. And at the moment, it looks like that now.
Yeah.
I watched the match against Fulham. Fulham gave them a hard game. They were very aggressive in their game, Fulham, where they were getting stuck into them. And Haaland scored a pen, and Alvarez scored a brilliant goal for them on the day. So they haven't lost for a little while, City. I wasn't that impressed with them, believe it or not, on Saturday. I know they won, and it was a good win for them. But they didn't play as well as they have been playing in recent times. But they still won. So that keeps them going. And they've got into a position now where it's in their own hands to win the league.
Yeah. I think we felt for a while, both of us, that experience would be a problem. Arsenal haven't been at this altitude before. They've got some young players. They've got some unreliable older players. Xhaka is dodgy. The holding is dodgy. The keeper is on his day very, very good, but they don't really have enough quality. And then Gabriel Jesus was out for a couple of months, and he was a key player in the first instance when they got to the top of the league. It's no bad reflection on Mikel Arteta. He's done a really good job there, John, and he hasn't been able to spend money either, has he?
No, he's done a terrific job. I mean, it's just when it comes to this particular stage of the season, you need all the players going for you, particularly the experienced players. And you mentioned Xhaka there and Gabriel, in my opinion, they don't come up to scratch
No.
He's mad. And Liverpool was terrible when Xhaka did what he did, changed the whole game, the atmosphere of the game. So, and you saw the match against, the Arsenal, Manchester City match where City totally outplayed them a couple of weeks ago. So City be definitely favourites on the run in now. They've done it before, and Arsenal at this particular stage are not playing as well as they were. Like when you get to this stage, James, it's a different game altogether. There's a lot of tension on you. You're going for it, and you need the players to have the spirit and the confidence and the character to do what needs to be done. And Arsenal, when the exam came there, they didn't live up to it really.
No. And
City have gone ahead at this moment and look odds on to go on and win it.
Yeah, just looking at the Everton managers we mentioned, Carlo Ancelotti, who we know is great. Rafa Benitez also there within the last 18 months. He can never go back to Liverpool again. And it defied even Rafa. So the situation there it looks like very, very bad indeed, very difficult indeed.
Yeah, I don't think they ever gave them the freedom, to buy the players.
No, someone else was buying the players, I think, yeah.
Yeah, Ancelotti got fed up with it. Then he goes to Madrid, as we know.
He's
won the Champions League, twice, 3 times since he's gone there. He was one of the best managers in the world they had.
Yeah.
And didn't use him, and that's, they've done that with the other managers coming in, so they've gone from bad to worse to be in the position that they're in now. It's dreadful as for the fans' point of view with Everton, the way the club has been run. Dreadful.
Now, here is a question for you. Manchester United, John.
Yeah.
They're certain, I would say, on the league table I'm looking at, they're fourth, but they're 7 points ahead of Liverpool, and Liverpool have played a game more, in fact. So Liverpool's chances of catching Manchester United are very slim indeed. What are we to make of that from Erik ten Hag's year at the club? I don't think he's got the players, and I haven't particularly seen anything to make me think, this is the man. But at the same time, they've got enough to get into the Champions League spot, which I wouldn't have thought was possible, say, before Christmas.
No, well, Liverpool haven't done their stuff, before the season started, you'd put a lot of money on Liverpool getting in the top 4, to get into the Champions League. So they've gone out of it. I think Ten Hag has done a reasonably good job to get them in the position that they're in. I think if he made the choice of getting rid of Ronaldo from the start, I think they'd be even better. But, they had big trouble with Ronaldo. When he went in, Ronaldo wanted to transfer. He wanted to get away. I think he should have said, right, off you go and get him done. So it's no doubt that they've picked up since Ronaldo was gone. Yes. They've got a bit of team spirit, a lot of team spirit in there now. So they're going quite well. I don't think they're in the same class as Manchester City or Arsenal at this particular stage.
Or even Newcastle, maybe, arguably.
Newcastle are there. Newcastle have bought well, What they haven't spent a fortune on any player, but they've spent well in what they're doing. They're a good team. They're going. So it's between them and Manchester United. But Manchester United still have some good players, I don't think they're up there with Arsenal or Man City this particular time. I think he has made progress. I don't think he's made enough to go mad about him at Manchester United. But they're better than they were before he came in. And that shouldn't be too difficult because they were in a mess, as we know. But I think the jury's out on him.
Yes, I would say so, John. And the question of the ownership of the club is not resolved. As we speak now, we don't know who's going to be in control of Manchester United in terms of the purse strings and the money that they do need players. And one of the things that these new owners, like the kind of Qataris, even that sort of PSG, who are having a nightmare, lost at home at the weekend. I watched it, Mbappe barely trying. And even at Manchester City, where Pep has done really well, and I think he is a good coach and does improve players. But even there's no players coming through from the academy. Phil Foden is a local lad, but other than him, I can't think of a Manchester City player who's come through. And same at Chelsea, this fella, Ted Boehly, when he came in and he wanted to spend 500 or 600 million, and he did spend it in 2 transfer windows, that's a killer if you have an academy system. And I just want to put it to you, John, or ask you, I maintain that the great Manchester United team that Alex Ferguson had, well, the first one, it had Beckham, Scholes, Ryan Giggs and Nicky Butt, all those players. They all came in from a youth academy that your late brother-in-law, our late friend Nobby Stiles, was part of. And they actually had an academy system. The way these billionaires, or these people with unlimited amounts of money do it is, if they need a player, they just buy him. They buy a player that has been groomed, learned the game somewhere else, put him in the side. So I think it makes the idea of an academy, such as Matt Busby had with the Busby Babes, such as Alex Ferguson had, it makes it redundant because you haven't got time.
I think that's true, Eamon, but there's a few other elements in not providing the players like they did at that particular time. The young players now coming through with talent have an agent, Eamon.
Yep.
At a young age, you know.
Yeah,
and what's happened
absolutely.
is when they have the agent, when it comes to 17 and time for to sign, a lot of them are told don't sign. They're good players. They've had 3 or 4 good coaching years at Manchester United or some of the other clubs, but then they're free agents.
Yeah.
So they don't, like the time with Beckham, and these lads couldn't leave when it came to the time of signing for signing pro and that.
Yeah.
Now they got agents. No, don't sign. We'll get you fixed up, and it's spoiling a lot, you know, because there's a lot of young players there, as we know, Eamon, for Manchester United, you know, available, but they're going on the continent now, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, you take the young lad Bellingham.
Yeah.
Well, how did he finish up in Germany?
Well, what would Alex Ferguson have done if he hadn't been able to have that academy that produced those young players that he could put in that team that won the coveted double, the Premier League and the Champions League? How would he have done it, John, if the Glazers had been in charge of the club or some other billionaire?
Have done it, Eamon.
So that's the point I'm trying to get to.
Yeah.
If you don't nurture your own young players, if every time you need a player, you have to go to, or you want to go to the transfer market and do it quick. It's like fast food. It's not quite the same, and it takes a lot of clubs out of the game.
Yeah, of course it does, Eamon. But that's the conditions have changed now. You get Beckham and these lads at time for Manchester United at 17. They'd have an agent and saying, right, sign your 2-year contract. Then he established himself in the first team. Then they're offered another contract. And the agent says, no, you don't sign the contract. You're a free agent.
Yeah, I wouldn't like to be the agent going into Ferguson and saying that. The point I make it, if you look at the league table, Liverpool are in 5th place, Manchester United are in 4th place, Spurs are in 6th place. Now, they're big clubs, and Liverpool's attempts to bring young players into the side hasn't really worked as well as I think they might have expected, because they do have an active academy system. Maybe Trent Alexander-Arnold came out of that, but no one else of his quality. And when they've needed players recently, they bought them. Jota, Nunez, Diaz, all these players have been bought. Fabinho, Van Dijk, they broke the British transfer record for. So what I'm getting at is that the nature of the game has changed to such an extent because billionaires don't have patience. Look at Ted Boehly again at Chelsea. 600 million in 2 transfer windows without even looking. And that can't be right. It can't be good for the game in the long term.
No, it's not good for the game in the short term, even. Because if you look at what happened to Chelsea, they're a perfect example. This guy's spent, 600 million or something.
Yep.
And it's a mess.
Yep.
Because they don't leave it to the coach or the manager to do what needs to be done. I'd say Ancelotti suffered at Everton with that one of the greatest managers in the world, and they were buying players around his neck.
Yeah.
No, without going on with it. Now you go to Chelsea and you got Potter. Potter was the coach. He wasn't the manager, Eamon. And this guy comes in, Bowley is that his name?
Yep.
And he's no respect for Potter. He said, I'm going to buy Joe Bloggs. And Potter said, oh, no, I don't really want him. And he said, look, this is my business.
Yeah.
This is my money. This is what I'm taking in.
Yeah.
So that's what's happened to the clubs generally, Eamon. I think there's no doubt when Ferguson was at Manchester United, he was in charge of the situation, Eamon. And I think he had his brother.
He did. His brother was the scout, and he had David Gill as the general manager, who was
manager. Now, if you go
they
back
were
to
friends.
His time, but if you go back to his time, Ferguson's time, which is a perfect example, Eamon, he'd no director of football.
No way.
No, his brother was the scout.
Yeah.
So what's happened now with what's happened with the clubs now, Eamon? They never were keen on the manager to be in charge in the old days. They were never keen on it. They didn't like it. They didn't like Don Revie, for example, because he was in charge of the situation and he's a bit cheeky with the owners, right? But nowadays, you have what the clubs have done and directors done and the owners done, and in a clever situation, to get what they wanted, they employed their director of football.
Yes.
So their director of football makes the signings.
Yes.
He's not responsible to the manager.
No,
He's
absolutely
responsible
not.
to the owners.
Yeah, I mean, Daniel Levy at Tottenham is a good example of that. He'd think of himself as more than a general manager. He thinks he's, whatever he is, he's general. Yeah. He runs the club, and he's running it the wrong in the wrong direction.
Of football, Eamon. You know, he has a director of football. He's not saying that you're quite right, and I believe that's the case, that he's in charge of the situation. But he's a guy there as director of football who gets the blame for it. You know, but it's certainly not the manager. There's no way Potter at Chelsea bought those players.
No, absolutely no way at all.
But he's responsible for the results.
Yeah. Just a final thought, John, about a club that is really working, and it's Brighton. They beat Wolves 6-0 at the weekend. Yeah. And they're actually in with a chance, a very good chance, in fact. They're 2 points behind Villa with 3 games in hand. And they've 3 games in hand of Tottenham. And they've 2 games in hand of Liverpool. So if Brighton keep going, they're going to be in the Europa League. Now, there's a small club owned by a friend of Liam's, actually, Tony Bloom, that's really doing it. It's a club that Graham Potter put on the map. But they've gone out now. They've got a new coach. He's a European coach, no history in the Premier League. He's come in. There's a young Irish player there, Evan Ferguson, who everyone is very excited about. He's injured at the moment. That seems to be a club that's run intelligently by people who have the interests of the club, the fans, and the game at heart, rather than using the club as a toy to invite your rich friends and sit there, you know, or indeed to do what Spurs did, which is build a brilliant and magnificent stadium and a rubbish team.
Yeah. Well, I think you can still have the great stadium and a good team.
Yes.
if you get the things right. Like, Levy is definitely in charge of the whole situation. I mean, look at the managers he's had. They haven't been in charge. He's been in charge of everything at the club. There's no doubt about that. He got his director of football in, and director of football does as he's told by Levy, although he won't be responsible for it publicly. Yeah. But in the Brighton situation, from what I read, Eamon, they have a scouting policy which is different to most of the other clubs. Look, if you see most of the players they play, they come from Korea, places that are not regarded as first class, like it's not Spain and Italy and France and that.
Yeah, they have a Japanese player actually. He's very, very good.
Yeah, and they have a few. If you look at a lot, they've sold quite a few players. Yes, but they haven't. I believe this is what I read anyway. That their scouting system is different to most of the not say all of the other clubs, because they're scouting from countries that are not regarded as top football countries.
Yes, yeah.
You see that lad they brought us from Korea or somewhere, Eamon.
And they bought a player from Ireland, Evan Ferguson.
Well, he's a good lad. He's
absolutely. He's a great hope.
But if you look at some of the players they've sold, some of the players are in the team.
Yeah, I know.
They haven't come from clubs, a lot of them, that are well-known clubs.
No, absolutely.
So the scouting system is better than any of the rest that we know of.
Yeah.
Which is good. Good for them.
Just a final question for this morning, John. The big reason Pep Guardiola came to City was to win the Champions League. I mean, they have won the Premier League before. Mancini won it, Pellegrini won it. So winning the Premier League is nothing new for Manchester City, which isn't in any way to diminish the quality of the present side. But he came to win the Champions League. He's never won the Champions League since he left that great Barcelona team. He didn't do it at Bayern, and he hasn't done it so far at Manchester City. They play Real Madrid next Tuesday in the first leg. First leg is in Madrid, which I think gives City a slight advantage. It's going to be a hell of a game, John, on what we've seen. Do you have an opinion?
Well, I think it'll be a terrific game. We got Ancelotti there. He's still got players. Modric is still there playing as well as ever he did, and
Benzema.
some of the other players. They're a fantastic team.
They are
an experienced team, a great coach. They'll be very, very difficult to beat.
Yeah.
So, it's a big job for City to do it.
Yes.
If the situation is, I'm a bit wary of the having to win the Champions League, Eamon.
Yeah.
From Guardiola's point of view.
Yeah.
No, even when I played, I'd rather win the league than the Champions League, Eamon.
Right. Yeah, I understand.
It's 38 matches of consistency. Yeah. I mean, don't forget, it's only 2 years ago since Tuchel won it.
Yeah. For Chelsea.
Won it, and the next year he was sacked. I know it was a headbanger that did the job, but he did it. But it's a knockout competition, and of course it's brilliant to win.
But you can be lucky with your draws.
Yeah.
Or unlucky, actually, but
don't forget, Eamon. It's like in the old days, it was a knockout competition.
Yes, it was. Yeah.
Now it's very difficult for the top teams not to qualify from the group.
Yes. Yeah.
That's a gimme. And now you're in the knockout stages, and it becomes a knockout stage competition in that. But of course, everybody wants to win the Champions League. But I'm only saying, from my personal point of view, I'd rather win the league, because the league is 38 matches. In my day, it was 42 matches. That's week in, week out, playing against sometimes better teams than teams that are already in the Champions League. But anyway, that's only my opinion. But I think Guardiola himself would obviously love to win it, Eamon.
Oh, yeah.
To crown his time, if that's the right word, at Manchester City.
Yep. Well, we'll see. The first leg of that is next Tuesday.
Yeah. That'll be fascinating, Eamon. I think that the Real Madrid will be great games.
Okay, John, we're very grateful to you joining us today. We'll say a novena for Leeds, but I don't think it'll be enough.
One of my novenas will be no good to them, Eamon.
And we're grateful to John.